This meeting is now being recorded.
Excellent. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, this is Tammy Katz. We're having our April INCOSE Requirement Working Group web meeting. We have a special topic today. In a minute, Mike Pafford is going to come and speak on a reference model project that they're working on with MBSE. For now, I just had a brief moment. I wanted to show you that I do have all of the recordings and slides for meetings that we host every month on our INCOSE Requirement Working Group Connect site. So I send this out with the meeting announcements. So you got this meeting announcement, you would have likely had seen a link to this. So you'll be able to see the slides that Mike is sharing today and also past slides and past recordings. So I just want to make sure that you all had an opportunity to know this material is available to you. Secondly, if you had not seen, there was an announcement yesterday from the INCOSE president that the IS 2020 will be virtual this year, and they're going to put out more information. I'm still not quite sure myself exactly how it's going to play out, but it's going to be 3 days. The time zone it'll be centered around will still be Cape Town, and they'll have an opportunity to still do a lot of presentations and information sessions. So just wanted to make sure if you hadn't had a chance to see that yet, that was announced yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Mike. Mike, do me a favor, and as you get started on your project, I'm going to let you share your screen here. Go ahead and introduce yourself and a little bit about you as well. And then go on and share your project and what you'd like from the Requirement Working Group team.
Okay, good, Tammy. I'll go ahead and share screen now as we discussed before. Let's see, bringing this up correctly here. Let me know if you can see the screen all right.
I will. Go ahead and I can see it and I can hear you just fine too. So go for it.
Okay, good. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mike Pafford. For those I haven't had a chance to meet yet, I've been with INCOSE for about 22 years now. I was the Chesapeake chapter president in 2017, and I may have met you all at several of the INCOSE events in the past couple of years where I had the opportunity to offer talks and presentations and tutorials on an approach to stakeholder elicitation that referred to as best practices from the lean startup method and agile software engineering, systems engineering, and project management that we put together in a hybrid approach for elicitation of capabilities and issues, problems, etc. from stakeholders at the beginning of all projects, be they agile or plan-driven, waterfall, it doesn't make any difference. This approach is one we've been using, or I've been using now for about 5 years as far as elicitation is concerned. So thanks again for letting me talk with you all today about an ongoing volunteer resilient hospital reference model. Let's see. I'm actually showing the wrong. For some reason, I'm showing the wrong set of slides, Tammy. So just give me 1 second to get over to the right slides, if you would.
Not a problem.
I'm still sharing my screen. I understand. So let me just go ahead and get over to the right set of slides here, and I'll just start this all over again. All right, good. Now I think I've got the right ones here. I think everybody should see that set of slides all right now.
I see it fine. Hey, do you see a little icon up on the upper right?
Yes, I do.
Can you move that so it doesn't cover the slides? Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, let's see if I've done that correctly. Okay, I think it's out of the way. I just clicked on it, so I think it's out of the way now, and I'll move my cursor out of the way also. So again, thanks for letting me talk with you all today about an ongoing resilient hospital reference model MBSE project and how we think our initial work might represent a decent real-life example of a stakeholder elicitation. This title slide here shows icons representing the volunteer resilient hospital systems engineering team members from INCOSE, IEEE, and FBI InfraGard, as well as some of our healthcare key stakeholders. For example, from the National Association of County and City Health Officials, NACHO, and the Society for Disaster Medicine and Public Health, or SDMPH, and more about these team members and stakeholders as we go along. This slide, here's this background about our project. Now, this is the information that Tammy emailed to everyone before, and the Resilient Hospital Reference Model-Based Systems Engineering project was motivated by some work captured in a booklet you all may know about called Resilient Hospital Handbook, authored by Dr. Chuck Manto and medical doctors Terbush and Motzer. Now, this we'll talk more about this reference in a while, but it's a very small book that it's easy to read, and it's on Amazon and so on and so forth, talking about how hospitals might set themselves up to be more resilient in general terms. Our project scope is helping hospitals plan for resilience, specifically as it applies to prolonged power outages. Now, following the publication of this booklet, a lot of discussions after that, it was decided that follow-up systems engineering work might prove very helpful based on potential model-based contributions from several INCOSE working groups, working in collaboration with key stakeholders from FBI InfraGard and SDMPH and public health subject matter experts and representatives like Dr. Terbush, Dr. James, Dr. Donut, and others. Now, the Resilient Hospital Reference Model, MBSE project, has been underway since 2017, building on prior INCOSE volunteer efforts on a microgrid reference model as a partial foundation for this Resilient Hospital project. Now, as the work goes on, the work does go on still on the microgrid reference model project. The objective of the Resilient Hospital modeling has garnered significant interest from several healthcare entities, including federal agencies such as FEMA, DHS, HHS, and so on. And our project is currently working with healthcare leaders and other experts to support relevant efforts for public sector requests for resilience and resilience assessment. So the next number of slides are the ones that our team has been briefing to our non-technical healthcare stakeholders during several problems, issues, needs, expectations, and capabilities elicitation sessions. The purpose of the project we've been briefing everyone is to develop a generic resilient hospital reference model or reference framework to enhance their hospital current preparedness, protection, prevention, response, mitigation, and recovery planning, initially as pertains to prolonged power outages. Now, the goal of the project is to provide hospitals with a computer-based, that means online, offline, online, and synchronization, desktop and mobile capability, resilient hospital decision support capability, leveraging model-based systems engineering techniques and tools that can be used to enhance and improve and tailor hospital planning before, during, and after any prolonged power outage. The vision for the project, way back, is for this resilient hospital decision-making capability to be replicated and scaled to offer the same kinds of model-based tools and resources at the public health care, local, state, tribal, and national levels. Project team here, as you can see, project team is a volunteer project team, and it's volunteer model-based systems engineering practitioners from INCOSE, IEEE, and FBI InfraGard, as well as experts from the Society for Disaster Medicine and Public Health and the National Association of County and City Health Officials. Key stakeholder groups who will also really be the customers for this capability are hospital emergency managers, medical planners, emergency public health officials, and so on. These are stakeholders critical to tying the work of the project team to real-world applications and needs, or why we call them key stakeholders. This is the modeling slide. When we talk to our non-technical healthcare professionals, of course, they're way smarter in their field than we'll ever be, but as far as systems engineering is concerned, we've already found out that is very new to most, if not all of them. So we have a series of, when we go to explain the resilient hospital model-based systems engineering project, we go step by step in this manner for these stakeholders. For example, when we talk about modeling, we tell them it's a rapid knowledge capture via common descriptions and diagrams stored in shareable common databases. and while going over these points with them, we always emphasize that modeling diagrams and descriptions use defined syntax and semantics, and that's a value that all the healthcare experts understand completely in their, having to use their own and making sure that they have a shareable and common syntax and semantic set. And we also say that modeling promotes shared human understanding in a common virtual environment that can integrate full life cycles across all system solutions from initial concept through development, training, operations, compliance, and support. And compliance being a big one for the healthcare folks. And we also say that modeling allows analysts, planners, and other decision makers to efficiently represent problems and solutions simultaneously from many different viewpoints, and they really like that aspect of it. And just so you all know, you can recognize this, we take the information from the INCOSE Handbook version 4 as well as CBOC version 2.2, but we just translate it over into plain language, natural language, and terms that we think that our key stakeholders will best understand. So systems engineering, we tell them, is that this, as you all again will recognize from the handbook and CBOC, a transdisciplinary approach to engineering means it's a means to enable the realization of successful systems as a whole, systems that satisfy the needs of customers, sponsors, users, and other stakeholders. And we say that a systems engineer is a person or role who supports this transdisciplinary approach by eliciting, then translating customer needs, issues, problems, expectations, and so on, into specifications that can then be realized by a system development team, be it agile, waterfall, and so on. And we say that the systems engineer supports a set of life cycle processes beginning early in the conceptual design, continuing throughout the life cycle of the system, including its manufacturing, deployment, use, and disposal. And we also say that systems engineers are supposed to help ensure the elements of a system fit together to accomplish the objectives of the whole system solution. And again, these are certainly things that you all recognize, but when we do talk to our healthcare key stakeholders, they appreciate that we don't go over a term. We actually try to explain all parts of what we're talking about with our project, including when we talk to them about model-based systems engineering. We've already introduced to them modeling. We've already introduced to them systems engineering. So we next talk to them about model-based systems engineering. We say that encourages systems engineering best practices through the use of models versus flat files and documents and so on. The models, which we keep coming back to, modeling being descriptions and diagrams put together in a common manner in a common database. So these models are often represented digitally and may describe requirements, analysis, design, verification of a complex system or architecture. Digital models enable computers to identify system interdependencies in real time, which they appreciate that part of it, as we all do, such that modifications to one part of the system are immediately recognized in another part of the system. And those healthcare workers, healthcare experts who are working with what they refer to many times as binders off the shelf, they really lean forward when we talk about being able, if something changes in one binder, it's going to be flagged in all the other binders, and not only flagged in all the other binders, but flagged in the viewpoint of the person that's looking in the binder. And they really lean forward, as you can expect they would. We talk about digital engineering and model-based systems engineering in those respects. Additionally, users can more efficiently prototype and explore system behavior at a very low cost compared to traditional paper-based systems engineering. And of course, as you can appreciate, some of the healthcare key stakeholders are hospital administrators and chief financial officers and so on, and they definitely stick around in the meetings to see what we to see if what we're really tell them will actually help them as far as the bottom line is concerned. And so again, moving along now, we discuss reference model. When we talk about resilient hospital reference model MBSE projects. So we say reference models are conceptual, operational, and reference diagrams and descriptions of system solution hardware, software, data, people, processes, and governance, like we all know, as well as all related documentation in common shareable data and information repositories. And reference models enable focused assessment and planning in controlled and contextual, which is very important to them, contextual test environment. Because all hospitals and all scenarios, you can imagine when you're dealing with hospitals, how many different contexts, how many different scenarios, and how many different use cases you could be talking about. So it's also a representation of both simulated and real world events can be possible. And reference models facilitate rapid event knowledge recording, reconstruction, reuse, and relay. And those in the healthcare industry, I guess I can call it that, especially in what's known as the Incident Command Center or the Incident Command System, or ICS. They really appreciate this particular aspect. And reference models enable accelerated simulation and evaluation cycle, including generating and evaluating multiple historical, current, and hypothetical future scenarios. And again, many of the folks that are having to do hospital resilience risk analysis are definitely keep asking us more about this idea of modeling historical, current, and future hypothetical scenarios. So again, putting it all together in resilient hospital reference model, we talk to these folks. Basis for hospitals to effectively model critical operations, share information, establish a common operating picture, and coordinate the provision of resources and services in real-time situational awareness. And this model is supposed to be flexible and scalable to enable this reference framework in model form. It's supposed to be flexible and scalable to enable hospitals to successfully integrate their operations into broader healthcare coalition catastrophic event planning, execution, and evaluation frameworks. And then also evaluation frameworks also includes lessons learned frameworks and national emergency healthcare response systems. And these resilient hospital reference models are supposed to enable emergency planning and decision making and compliance with all local, tribal, state, regional, and national guidance, requirements, and standards. And as you'll see, and when we go through just the little list of references that we're trying to put together, how many reference documents these hospitals are supposed to understand and be compliant with. So now the first phase of our resilient hospital reference model MBSE project development is focusing on offering an innovative, generic, model-based reference framework that any hospital could use to enhance its ongoing and future power outage risk assessment. Again, we're just scoping it to power outage right now. Everybody understands, as you all do, I'm sure, that there's all manner of different things that can happen as far as hospitals as they tie into the critical infrastructures, not the least of which being water. As a matter of fact, even though the hospitals are working with us on an extended power outage on the initial scope, they've already asked us that as far as scaling this thing, flexing this thing is concerned, will they be able to use it as far as a water outage is concerned? And we fully understand that, and we're going to be continuing to work with them on that. As far as the risk assessment, the planning, the mitigation, recovery, evaluation, and reporting capabilities. And the reporting capabilities, as you can appreciate, is very important as far as the hospitals are concerned, because that's how they get their yearly funding from DHS, HHS, and CDC, and CMS, and the Joint Commission. I'm sorry to throw all those acronyms out there, but they're the ones we've been seeing in the news a lot lately. And all of those, all hospitals, through working with hospital coalitions at the regional level, they actually petition for and get new funding as far as FEMA and CDC and and all of the support they normally get, the funding they normally get from those organizations. They get that through the proper compliance and reporting each time. And what we hope to do with this reference framework is to help them improve, to enhance and improve their ability to couch that risk assessment in a way that they can realistically continue to receive the amount of funding that they may need for situations such as a future power outage, so they can plan for it ahead of time, get the resources that they need to mitigate and to collect their lessons learned and to evaluate and report what happened, and incorporate all that work into the chain of command, let's say, the chain of command up to and including DHS, HHS, and CDC and CMS. Now, other planned first phase outcomes include a dynamically updated searchable PDF knowledge base of current local, tribal, state, regional, and national emergency guidance requirements, standards, and lessons learned. All of that information you see there is what they refer to as a reference information, and what we hope to help them transform from file-based reference into model-based reference in a reference model. But at the same time, we hope to help them in a dynamic, updated way continue to collect and update all of the different governance, and they'll have that in a searchable PDF capability. We're going to help them do that. So the next project phases will continue to analyze and use the most current analysis, architecting, development, and testing tools and methods that facilitate the most input and participation from the maximum number of key stakeholders from healthcare and emergency management. Down the road, outcomes include reference models that span all of the areas of critical infrastructure, protection, and recovery. Some of you all may be members of the INCOSE SIPR working group, but I guess there are up to 17 components and counting as far as critical infrastructure is concerned. So we hope that this reference model will scale and flex to accommodate any decision-making processes that have to do with those other critical infrastructure components. This you all may recognize as this is a nominal, we call it a nominal or living general roadmap for our Resilient Hospital Reference Model MBSE project that we've been using to keep our healthcare stakeholders apprised of our project progress. And you may recognize this as a roadmap template used by the INCOSE MBSE initiative way back when. Same as always, the x-axis is rough project timeline, the y-axis is project outcome maturity, and the banner across the top are the high-level capabilities developed during the project elicitation that we've been doing. And the bullets in the lower right are just high-level project team processes that we want our stakeholders to know that the project team is actually doing those types of things. But across the top, you'll see that those are some of the main categories of a capability that we've been using this elicitation approach, and talking to our key stakeholders about their issues and their problems and their expected capabilities and so on. So that's what you see across the top there. And you can see that that's same roadmap type thing. We've done initial project planning, and we're well into the project knowledge gathering part of it. And as far as a project experience gathering is concerned, you'll see a slide that shows some of the events that elicitation events or sessions that we've tried to have. And the hospital critical functions modeling, we're sort of into that part of it now, as well as the hospital critical interfaces modeling. We'll continue to do the hospital reference model development, of course, through the year, and then integration into, as we talked about before, into regional and national capabilities we hope to help them do down the road. this slide is one that if any of you all at any other INCOSE events have had a chance to go through any of the Lean Startup Method and Agile for initial project planning tutorials that I've been offering, you'll recognize this slide. This is just another simple roadmap for our project. We have done, and continue to do, collection of elicitation of abstract, plain language, problems, issues, needs, scenarios, expected capabilities, and so on. And we put it through, and we've done that using the a Lean Startup Method and Agile systems engineering, Agile software engineering, Agile project management, initial project planning approach. And so what we get from that, of course, is we try to get a codified and collected project visions, goals, scope, stakeholder, and group capabilities, and that type of thing. And that initial project planning work means to come up with this good group of stakeholders and a good group of capabilities. Now, what we're doing now is we're currently working on the model-based concept definition part you see in the lower right here phase of our MBSE work, using the tools that you all may know about called OPCAT, OPCAT, and OPCloud, OPCLOUD. And these are MBSE tools built based on the ISO PAS 19450 2015 specification, Automation Systems and Integration Object Process Methodology, or OPM. And those of you all that are familiar with OPM, you may be already working with this, but we're using that specification, and the free open source OPCAT is downloadable onto your computer for free, and OPCloud is a username and password type account you can get to use the MBSE tool that's based on the OPM specification. And we're using that for our model-based concept definition. And the main reason we like that one is, and the rest of you all that are familiar with OPM, is the stakeholders can see themselves in OPM without any problem whatsoever. It's a combination of object process diagramming, which only has 20 symbols, and object process language, which is automatically created through when you push a button after you've drawn the diagram. It gives you object process language, and you can just and you and the stakeholders can read that and say, I understand the diagram. The diagram words are what I told you, or are very close to what I expect. And so we're using that for the model-based concept definition part of our MBSE work. And that's ongoing, of course. Now, this, of course, you all will recognize this slide. This slide is meant to show how we think our initial project planning, IPP, and initial project execution, IPE, elicitation work fits into your INCOSE requirement working group draft guide to verification and validation. And I did have the opportunity to go through that document. I spent several hours going through there, and I was happy to go through there and give the feedback as far as the draft document was concerned. And we did. I learned a lot from going through that document, and we're fairly confident. We're pretty confident now that our IPP and IPE is tying pretty well. The approach that we're using and the work that we're doing is tying into that part of the elicitation part of the guide to verification and validation. Pretty confident that we're tying into that fairly well. Now, this is not the kind of diagram that we show our healthcare stakeholders. When we get our key stakeholders, and some of our key stakeholders, they do understand this, and we do have them on the team, and they do sort of help us go through diagrams like this. But for the most part, so far, in our initial project planning, initial project execution, we don't really go through this kind of detail with our healthcare stakeholders. We're very much more interested, as you can appreciate, we're very much more interested in having them give us a brain dump, and we'll capture it however we can, and then back in our own in-house, we'll make sure that we apply 15288, the Handbook 40, the CBOC 22, and documents like this document, and documents like this document, which you again recognize, the Guide for Writing Requirements. We'll apply the information in-house, and then we go back to the stakeholders in their own language, and we get that information vetted. But again, this is a slide that that you all certainly recognize, is meant to show how we think our project work fits into the guide for writing requirements. So you can see that we're trying to adhere, as far as the elicitation is concerned. We're trying to adhere to the way that the processes that are described in that guide for writing requirements, especially on the elicitation side of the house, and the handoff to requirements analysis and engineering and systems architecture and architectural design, and so on.
Mike, may I ask you a question on the last slide?
Yes, go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Just a quick question. You'd mentioned some processes you're doing and some tools you're doing. Are you actually formally capturing requirements as this process shows, or are you mostly using this as kind of your checklist of things you know you need to do? But I'm not sure what you do. What are your artifacts out of this?
Yes. Maybe I'll be. I can't remember for I'm a couple of slides from now. I'll be able to maybe key on some of the artifacts that come out of our work. But the bottom line for our work, Tammy, the bottom line for our work is that we hope to make sure that we've got a good set of stakeholders, a right set of stakeholders, a right set of key stakeholders that are actually on our team or available to our team at all times, and a very good set of capabilities, a very good set of capabilities, expected capabilities, and really we think if we have that good set of stakeholders, that good set of key stakeholders, and that good set of capabilities, I think that will provide a very useful handoff to any team working agile, doing a product backlog item creation, or a plan-driven strict 15288 that may be going into requirements analysis and engineering. I think our elicitation artifacts based on our approach and our artifacts will provide any other project with a smooth handoff for usable elicitation artifacts that they can take off with. But ours is really the elicitation and the elicitation artifacts, and we want to make sure that overlapping handoff to all the rest of the stages of a project and system development, that we've added value to that part of that handoff. But again, the scoping is just the elicitation part.
Okay, I look forward to seeing the couple of slides down that you were talking about.
So here, again, you all recognize this out of Handbook 4.0. The Handbook 4.0 is we concentrate on the business or mission analysis and the stakeholder needs and requirements definition. And our artifacts really there's an overlap between the requirements. We don't do much requirements definition or requirement specification. We expect that the stakeholders and the key stakeholders and the capabilities list will provide those that are responsible for needs requirement definition, needs requirement specification, and so on and so forth. That we will outfit them and arm them with a very productive set of artifacts that they can take to the next through the next process steps. And this is again, you'll recognize this from CBOC version 2.2. This is how we think our project IPP and initial project planning and initial project execution work fits into CBOC 2.2, where it talks about the key elements of systems engineering, specifically the customer providing needs and the systems engineer eliciting needs. We really concentrate on that part, and then you can see that handoff, the handoff between the systems engineer that's involved in working with the customer. That handoff that's called specifies. We hope that is an enhanced handoff between the outfacing systems engineers and the systems engineers that continue from out-facing to in-facing, and that interface, that they begin to interface more with the development team, although they're still interfacing with key stakeholders as far as out-facing is concerned. We just hope that handoff is a more productive handoff. And we are finding that with our own, of course, we're finding that with our own project. We're finding, we're moving from elicitation into model-based concept definition. So we're actually testing all of that and proving all of that out as we go along. Now this slide done in, not to, I guess shameless plug here for Lucidchart. For anybody that uses the free version of Lucidchart, lucidchart.com. I'm becoming a pretty big fan of Lucidchart, and again, not only is it free, and I know that you all will appreciate this if I say this. The reason we keep harping on free OpCat and OpCloud and free Lucidchart and so on and so forth is when you're in a volunteer organization and you're trying to get your foot in the door with a for-profit hospital, you've sort of got a better chance, as you all can appreciate, if they don't have to hear, not only are we here to help, but we're here to help at a price or a cost. So because we're a volunteer organization, we're very sensitive to that, and so far, and so we do a lot of due diligence on tools that we think we can use and that our stakeholders will understand, and that sort of don't cost too much, and the learning curve is not too steep. So we found that OpCat and OpCloud is a very good initial model-based systems engineering tool to share with our stakeholders, as is something like Lucidchart, which they all recognize this flow type diagram you get from that, and you all understand and can recognize this very easily. So what we've got here is this is the initial project planning process steps. And of course, the tutorials that I offer goes through every one of these steps in interactive detail. Everybody learns about it and gets to practice it. So we do this in the form of workshops that we have our key stakeholders and our practitioners work at together. And so we determine who needs to be at these workshops. And so we conduct we get into conducting the workshop, and we actually develop a set of 7 project focus mechanisms, or PFMs, project focus mechanisms. And so that's what this shows here. It shows the workshops or series of workshops, and you can see that the artifacts that we go through here. It produces artifacts after every step. So we produce a project. We make sure we have project decision level perspectives after 1. We have a project title and purpose statement that's agreed to after 2. We have a product vision board extended, which is how we actually can characterize all of the primary vision level things that the project needs to do. And then we have we really work on the project stakeholder group list. And we work on the stakeholder group details. We bin and combine the stakeholder groups, and then we come up with this project capabilities list. And so then we can leverage and refer to all 7 of those, and we put all of those in a very extensive Excel workbook. And we have a very extensive Excel workbook right now. And so that's what you get out of this particular approach, is you get good decision makers that you can that have actually participated in these workshops. You get an idea of what they think are the right stakeholder groups. You get a good handle on the key stakeholders that you can go back to, and you get a good set of validated documentation about all of those, including a good validated capabilities list is what you get out of this initial project planning. And then that was the initial project planning. And then of course we take that giant, that good detailed, it's getting to be pretty big, Excel workbook with all of the initial project planning artifacts, and we move into initial project execution, going back and talking with the decision makers and staying in constant contact with the key stakeholders. So we collect these IPP artifacts, and then we move into some of the other aspects that you saw on that orange box on that diagram. We move into things like measures of effectiveness and performance, and we move into ConOps and scenarios and use cases, and we use those capabilities, and we use the expertise of the stakeholders that we've got garnered, and we can move through more of the elicitation process and into the handoff between elicitation and architecture and requirements analysis and so on. And so we're working on our system of system level use cases now, and our scenarios and refinement of our capabilities list. And we're also making a good use of Agile, best practice in Agile to transform our capabilities, or as some in Agile also called activities, into a set of epic level user stories. As one of these healthcare customers, I need this capability in order to do the following things. So we're doing all that at the system level right now. But of course, as you all know, that's the kind of information that you take into requirements analysis and requirements engineering. So that's just some flow charts of our initial project planning and our initial project execution, and the name of some of the artifacts that we come up with, and all of the processes, steps we follow, and the output from every one of those processes we've put into a detailed Excel workbook right now, and it's the information in that Excel workbook that we'll use now in the next steps of our MBSE that you see here and our model-based concept definition in using the MBSE tools OpCat and OpCloud. This particular slide here is just to show some of the elicitation events and sessions that we've been able to do so far. There are actually many more, but this particular project goes back to 2017, where we had three LSM Agile initial project planning workshops at the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab between August and September of 2017, and these are just some of the folks that participated. We're very lucky to have. Yep, go ahead. We're very lucky to have these people at the workshops. And then in 2018 and 2019, this is just a couple of the examples of some of the other places where we've had a chance to talk about our approach and get some information from other potential stakeholders and potential key stakeholders, and these are just some of the ones that some of the events that we've gone to as far as that's concerned. We're very lucky to get a paper presented at the meeting in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, and so we've got some good SDMPH input from that and participation from that, and we have had a chance to go to the SDMPH national meeting here in DC. We've also given our orientation session and other sessions about the project at IW20, and then project status briefing at a very good meeting at the Colorado Healthcare Coalition in the Colorado Springs back in January, before we couldn't go anywhere anymore. And then we're on the schedule for 2 National Association of County and City Health Officials conferences in July and August in Denver and in Dallas. So we're on the schedule for those. So we'll see. We hope to do a lot more networking at those events, and we're on the schedule for. We're on the schedule, if it goes, for the INCOSE Healthcare Working Group System Engineering Conference again in Minneapolis in October. And we've, of course, submitted a proposal for a briefing at INCOSE GLR 14 up in Detroit in September, if that goes. But this is just some of the examples of some of the places we go to try to continue to do, in some cases, and refine in other cases, our elicitation, to make sure that to strengthen our set of elicitation artifacts that we make available to ourselves and our project, and validate the approach to IPP and that anyone else in elicitation that anyone else could use to strengthen the beginning of their projects. Here is just this screen is just a screen of a few of the references that we're hoping to help hospitals transform from file-based governance into model-based governance in a reference framework. And on the right side in the middle there is that very small little booklet. You can't really tell, but it's only about 19 or 20 pages, called the Resilient Hospitals Handbook. And a fellow INCOSE, COSE member, Chuck Manto, and some other folks were responsible for that. And some other INCOSE members, I think, are responsible for the new version of the reference in the upper left called Powering Through. Volume 2 is coming out. So I think some INCOSE members are going to be involved in helping to publish that second volume of that reference. But again, just some of the references we hope to help them put into this model-based framework. And to wind up here, this final slide just shows the contact information for the project principals. This volunteer project, it's a volunteer project, is always looking for new participants and/or key stakeholders. And so get a hold of, as you can see here, please get a hold of Howard Likens if you want more information about the project. And get a hold of me if you'd like to know more about the Lean Startup Method and Agile initial project planning approach that I've been facilitating here since May of 2015. And thanks, and I'm happy to field any questions if there are any, and if there is time.
Hey, we certainly do have time, Mike. Thank you very much for bringing that project information to the working group. Now, being that this is a requirement working group, of course, some of the first questions I have is, have you found any challenges in trying to do the elicitation process? And also, again, I'm very curious, where did you document your needs and your requirements when you were finding yourself gathering them from the elicitation efforts?
Yep. Okay. Good. Thanks, Tammy. And so I'll say that we most certainly have had challenges, and we have had challenges. And the main challenge is if you tell stakeholders that thanks a lot for telling us this, and if you have anything else you want to tell us, please tell us. Well, careful what you ask for, because one of the challenges is no sooner do we get distill their informal brain dump, we distill that into the Excel workbook, which is really where we're capturing all of this information. No sooner do we get that in there that somebody will come back and say, I want to rethink what I just did. I want to change what I told you were my needs, issues, problems, and expectations. So the main challenge in elicitation is the same challenge that we all face in elicitation is if you want to really be customer-centric, then you have to operate in a customer-centric manner, which means you have to expect that change will happen all the time. So that's one of the challenges, is how do we accommodate change even in the elicitation phase? How do we accommodate that change to where the artifacts of elicitation remain useful as you go through the rest of the systems engineering process, and to try to be have least of an impact, at least of an impact on the rest of the life cycle as possible. And to answer specifically the second part of your question, we started and have continued to build a very extensive Excel workbook with multiple tabs where we've tried to record all the distillation of all of the different elicitation sessions that we've had, including all attendees list, all stakeholder groups, make sure we understand the stakeholder group, make sure we understand the stakeholders within the stakeholder groups, and make sure that we understand all of their expectations. And one thing that we've used that really helps in that respect is what the Agile software people use as epic user story writing. There's good books out there on how to capture the user story at the epic level, which means what we say is a system level. So we use that a lot. Because that format is, as a system level decision maker or role, I need the following capability from this solution in order to do my system level role. And so we use that a lot. And so that helps us put the capabilities that we're capturing into a form where we can easily put them into the Excel workbook. So we use the epic user story mapping. It's called story mapping or story writing. We use that a lot. But again, we use it for the purpose of coming up with the list of capabilities that any systems engineer would recognize as a list that they can take into requirements analysis in engineering and so on.
Thank you, Mike. Just another brief question. I'll let other folks have a chance here too. Roughly how many requirements do you think you're evolving to based on all these sessions and capabilities?
We probably think they're somewhere near 1 million, but we're not sure yet. I'm not being facetious there. You can appreciate that we have a list now. We have a list of easily 100 capabilities. And these are system level capabilities. And I'm not saying anything to the group here who knows what it is to have 400 or 500 different testable wills and shalls. Now, as is plain, I think probably plain from what we're doing, we are not asking the stakeholders to give us testable wills and shalls. Everyone here knows that that's not what you do in elicitation. But even during our elicitation and trying to keep it at the system level, we've come up with at least 100 capabilities, system level capabilities that our stakeholders have told us they would expect from a reference model like this. So, you know, what that translates into as testable wills and shalls, you all know as well as I do how many you could have. So I would say easily 200. There's at least 200 testable wills and shalls if we were to take it to and when we actually codify and put that down as testable wills and shalls, we expect to see well over 200.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Mike? And I think a few of your team members are on as well.
This is Lou Wheatcraft. I got in a little bit late, but one thing I'm wondering about is the tool. With the amount of information you're trying to manage, it seems like you're exceeding the capabilities of Excel. And I was wondering if you looked at being able to import this into a tool that would make it easier to manage, plus also allow you to have more traceability across the product lifecycle.
Yes. Again, I only meant to give. I know I recognize exactly what you're asking, but again, what I'm really briefing here is the initial elicitation, and we found that as far as the initial elicitation is concerned, we are stretching the capabilities of Excel, but for capturing the system level capabilities and the system level stakeholders and the system level key stakeholders and the system level use cases and system level ConOps and scenarios, we don't feel that we've exceeded the capabilities of the tools that we're using now, which are a combination of Microsoft Office, Lucidchart, Excel, and OpCat and OpCloud. And that set of tools so far has given us what we need to use so far, and we haven't outgrown those yet. And the reason we're using those, and we're really using this as a lesson learned, is we're being very proactive at being customer centric and customer outfacing. So we've discovered that Microsoft Office, including Excel, Lucidchart, and OpCat and OpCloud we have not only have we not outgrown our what we're doing with elicitation so far, but we've not lost our or confused our stakeholders yet. So we're making maximum use of those kinds of tools, knowing that once they say, okay, we're good with what you're doing, come back and explain that to us every once in a while, knowing that between the come back and explain it to us every once in a while, we've got to go in and start really paying attention to 15288, the handbook, the CBOC, and 12207, and all those other kind of things. We know we're in for having to investigate other tools that we can get this information into. But for the purpose of trying to remain customer-centric, we found that tool set, Office, Lucidchart, OpCat, and OpCloud, has held us in fairly good stead so far.
You know, one of the things, Mike, I think I'm having trouble visualizing is screenshots of your tools and how your requirements and use cases are laid out. I don't know if this is something you think you could provide that I can amend to the slides, but I think that might be useful to see how your Excel files and your OpCat and OpCloud and chart usage kind of play together.
Okay. Yes, and that's a good question, Tammy. And we are actually doing that right now. So we do have some work where we have began to translate and transpose and transform our Excel work into the next step of model-based concept definition, including using the tools OpCloud and OpCat. And we're literally doing that right now. So we should be able to, if you all would like, we should be able to show how we're able to help lead our stakeholders into model-based world through model-based concept definition, we're in the process of doing that now with our key stakeholders. So we would have something to show as far as how we're moving from taking their initial input and putting it into Excel, and then bringing that input to life, so to speak, in a model-based environment using OpCat and OpCloud, and then going back and vetting that with the stakeholders. We're in the process of doing that right now. So at whichever time you would like, and again, we make that information available, and we can make that information available at any time to anyone who's interested in the progress of the project. But we'd be more than happy at any time to come back and brief how we're moving from elicitation in Excel to the handoff to requirements, at least requirements definition through our model-based concept definition work. And we can come back and report on that at any time.
Thank you, Mike. We're actually at the end of the hour, so I wanted to make sure, did anyone have any last question? Or you have the contact information here if you'd like to reach out to Mike and his team directly. And give any last moment for comment or question?
This is Vijay. A quick question, if I may. I know we are out of time here. Mike, could you comment on, you have used OPM here, you're starting to use OPM. Have you looked at other MBSE tools that I have not used OpCat, so I'm just wondering whether OpCat could be a limitation compared to some of the other tools like NoMagic or Capella?
Yes, a quick answer to that is it all comes back to being customer-centric. The INCOSE and the IEEE and the folks on the team are pretty familiar with NoMagic and some of the other UML and SysML tools that are out there, base tools that are out there. We're rolling the dice a little bit here. We're remaining with OpCat and OpCloud right now because our customers can continue to see themselves clearly in the combination of simple OPM diagrams and OPM language. They can clearly see themselves in that. We are also paying very close attention to the object management group and how Dove Dory is continuing to work with the object management group in incorporating and getting APIs and hardwired and other kind of handoffs between the OPM-based tools and the other SysML and UML-based tools that OMG is responsible for. So we do know right now that we're risking a little bit by staying simple like this with OPM and OpCat and OpCloud with our customers, because we hope to get a very strong set of elicitation by doing that. But we know that we need to pay very close attention and to the capability of as easily as possible exporting those artifacts as input into, let's just say, better, more complex and more mature SysML and UML based tools down the line as the rest of our MBSE. But we are paying attention to that, but we're using the OpCloud and OpCat right now because our customers, our healthcare customers, seem to understand that easily enough, and so it's strengthening our elicitation.
Hey, Mike, Ray Joseph chatted in a question. Any suggestions on learning OpCat? Do you know of any good reference material you'd point people to?
Well, let's see. What we're doing now, and I do have to tell you that I do have to tell you that OpCat, we're using OpCat, but OpCat is sort of, and it's free. You can download OpCat 4.2, but the Institute is not really supporting it anymore. The Institute has moved to OpCloud. Look up OpCloud on the internet. You'll get right to it. You'll get all the contact information. You can contact those folks and get a username, password for a cloud-based version of the OPM tool. We're using it. We're continuing to use OpCat because we need, for our stakeholders, we need the capability to wind up with a reference model that can be used at the desk when the power goes out. They can put it on their battery operated and continue to use it to do what they want to do. And when the power comes back on, they put it back onto their cloud-based version, and it all syncs up. So we need the ability for an online, offline, online synchronization capability. So we're asking the Institute to keep us knowledgeable on OpCat also for the purpose of our particular customers. But OpCloud is the newest capability for the OPM tool, and you can easily get that. And the OPM and OpCloud wiki on the internet, if anybody has not gone there yet, is tremendous. It is very good. So it's one of the best wikis that I've seen. And in that wiki for object process methodology 19450 ISO, you'll get some very direct information on how best to bring yourself up to speed on OpCloud. But we're using OpCat because we need that online, offline, online, and sync capability down the road.
Hey, Mike, this is Howard. Could I just add one very brief thing to what you just said? And this is a very good presentation. And I'm hoping I'm not muted.
No, we can hear you just fine.
Okay,
I only have a couple more minutes of meeting time we can support, but please go ahead.
Sure, understood. There was a couple of courses on the edX platform about the object process methodology. Many of the videos for that course are on YouTube, and they're very good videos, and they'll introduce you to the object process methodology. In addition to that, I think, as Mike said, just do a search for that phrase, and you'll find books and many other references for you.
Thank you. I do want to thank Mike and Howard and John. I saw you on as well. Thank you guys for bringing this to the requirement working group. Going forward, if there's anything particularly unique from us, you know Lou likely and some of the others, we're happy to help. Appreciate, Mike, that you gave some input into our guide for V&V. That guide has made a lot of progress in the last few months, so we're looking forward to bringing copies of more drafts to folks soon so they can see how it's been evolving. Thank you everybody for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now and in the meeting, and in a month we have another speaker who will be presenting some work on some ASME standards and work they're doing with that. So thank you.
Thank you.